っくりレ夢ムです。
ゆっくりマリサだぜ。
Hi, Raimu Marissa. Hey guys. The Banach-Tarski Paradox. The math proof that says you can duplicate anything.
ゆっくりしていってね。
Section 1. Take a solid ball. A perfect mathematical sphere. Now cut it into 5 pieces. Not special pieces. Not pieces you designed carefully. Just 5 chunks, but cut in a very specific way. Now take those 5 pieces. Rearrange them. Rotate some. Move them around. No stretching. No adding new material. No tricks. And reassemble them into 2 complete balls. Each one exactly the same size as the original. 1 ball became 2. You didn't add anything. You didn't stretch anything. You just cut and rearranged. This is not a magic trick. This is not a joke. This is a proven mathematical theorem, proved in 1924, that has never been disproved, never been found to contain an error, and is accepted by the mathematical community as completely valid. It's called the Banach-Tarski Paradox. And the reason it's possible, the hidden truth buried inside the proof, is one of the most disturbing things mathematics has ever uncovered about the nature of infinity, space, and what it means for something to exist. So why can't we use it to duplicate gold? That's what we're going to find out. Section 2. The year is 1924. Warsaw, Poland. 2 mathematicians are working in one of the most creative and turbulent mathematical environments in history. Stefan Banach and Alfred Tarski. Banach was already famous. He had founded an entire branch of mathematics, functional analysis, and his name is attached to some of the most important theorems in modern math. He was known for working in cafes, writing theorems on napkins and tablecloths, holding informal seminars that lasted until the early hours of the morning. Tarski was younger, fiercely brilliant, and already developing a reputation as one of the deepest logicians of his generation. He would go on to transform mathematical logic and the philosophy of truth itself. Together, they published a paper containing a result so strange that they almost didn't believe it themselves. The paper was called Decomposition of Point Sets into Respectively Congruent Parts. An unassuming title. Inside was a mathematical explosion. They proved that a solid ball in 3-dimensional space could be decomposed, cut into a finite number of pieces, and those pieces could be reassembled using only rigid motions into 2 balls identical to the original. The mathematical community was stunned. Some called it an absurdity. Some called it a scandal. But nobody could find the error, because there wasn't one. The proof was, and still is, completely valid. The mystery wasn't whether it was true. The mystery was how it could possibly be true, and what it meant that it was. Section 3. Let's build the case layer by layer. Because the Banach-Tarski Paradox doesn't come from nowhere. It emerges from a series of mathematical discoveries that each seemed reasonable on their own, until combined they produced something that felt like it broke reality. First piece of evidence. The axiom that started everything. At the foundation of the Banach-Tarski Paradox is a single mathematical assumption called the Axiom of Choice. The Axiom of Choice sounds completely reasonable. It says this: given any collection of non-empty sets, you can always pick one element from each set simultaneously. That's it. You can always make a choice. If you have a million boxes, each containing at least one object, you can always select one object from each box. Even if the boxes contain infinitely many items. Even if you have infinitely many boxes, you can always make selections. This sounds so obvious that it barely seems worth stating. When mathematicians first proposed formally including it as an axiom in set theory in 1904, many accepted it without hesitation. Of course, you can always make a choice. That's just common sense. But the axiom of choice has consequences. Consequences that are far from obvious. Consequences that, once derived, made some of the most eminent mathematicians in history deeply uncomfortable. The Banach-Tarski Paradox is one of those consequences. Second piece of evidence. Infinity comes in pieces that can't be measured. Here's where the investigation gets strange. Normal geometry works with measurable pieces. A piece of a ball has a volume. You can add up volumes. If you cut a ball into pieces and reassemble them, the total volume stays the same. Conservation of volume. It seems unbreakable. But the Banach-Tarski proof uses pieces that are not measurable. This is not a technicality. It's the heart of the paradox. When Banach and Tarski cut their ball into 5 pieces, those pieces are not like anything you can cut with a knife. They are not connected regions. They are not blobs or chunks. They are what mathematicians call non-measurable sets, collections of points so infinitely complex, so scattered and fragmented, that the concept of volume simply does not apply to them. They are made of infinitely many individual points, selected according to a rule that requires the axiom of choice, a rule that picks one representative from each of infinitely many equivalence classes of points. These pieces have no volume, not zero volume. No volume, the concept doesn't apply. And when you add up pieces that have no volume, conservation of volume doesn't constrain what you can build. The accounting system that normally prevents you from creating matter from nothing simply doesn't work on these pieces. That's where things became strange. Third piece of evidence. The paradox of the infinite hotel, but for rotations. Asterisk asterisk, to understand how the reassembly actually works, you need to understand a beautiful piece of mathematics involving rotations. Consider the surface of a sphere, and consider 2 specific rotations. Rotate left by a certain angle, rotate forward by a certain angle. If you apply these 2 rotations in different orders and combinations, left, forward, left, forward, left, forward, forward, and so on, you generate an infinite family of distinct rotations. No 2 combinations produce the same result. Now here's the key insight that Banach and Tarski exploited. This infinite family of rotations has a paradoxical property. You can split the family into 2 groups, such that each group is, in a precise mathematical sense, as large as the whole family. 2 halves, each equal to the whole. This sounds impossible, but it's the same logic as Hilbert's infinite hotel, the famous thought experiment where a hotel with infinitely many rooms, all occupied, can always accommodate more guests by shifting everyone down. Infinite sets don't behave like finite sets. You can split an infinite collection into 2 pieces, each of which contains just as many elements as the original. And in the context of the sphere, this means you can split the surface into pieces, using those unmeasurable, infinitely fragmented sets, and reassemble them into 2 complete surfaces. Extend this to the solid ball, handle the center point separately, and you get the full Banach-Tarski result. 1 ball, 5 pieces, 2 balls. Then investigators examined what this actually meant for physics and reality, and discovered something unexpected. Fourth piece of evidence. The pieces are physically impossible to create. Here is the evidence that resolves the most urgent question. Can we use this to duplicate gold? No. And here's exactly why. The pieces that Banach-Tarski cuts the ball into are not physical objects. They cannot be created in the real world. They cannot be pointed to, touched, or identified. Each piece is a non-measurable set, an infinite collection of individual mathematical points, selected using the axiom of choice, with the property that no physical process could ever select or isolate them. To create these pieces, you would need to make infinitely many choices simultaneously from infinitely many groups of points, with no rule or algorithm to guide which choice to make in each case. The axiom of choice says such choices can always be made, but it does not tell you how to make them. It gives no procedure, no algorithm, no method. It simply asserts they can be made. In mathematics, asserting existence without providing a construction is completely valid. Mathematicians do it all the time. In physical reality, it can be done without telling you how to do it is not enough. You would need an actual physical process to separate those specific points from all others. And no physical process, no knife, no laser, no quantum measurement, no force of any kind, can select a non-measurable set of points from a physical object. The Banach-Tarski paradox is real, and it is physically unreachable. Both of those things are true. Section 4. The paradox is established. The physics limitation is established. But what it all means, what the Banach-Tarski paradox is really telling us about mathematics, reality, and the foundations of logic, is genuinely contested. Let's go through the serious interpretations. Theory 1. The paradox proves the axiom of choice is false. The most radical response to Banach-Tarski is to reject its foundation. If accepting the axiom of choice leads to the conclusion that you can duplicate a ball, which seems to violate conservation of matter, then maybe the axiom of choice is wrong. Maybe the ability to always make a choice from infinitely many sets is not actually true. Maybe some selections simply cannot be made, even in principle. Several mathematicians, most notably Henri Lebesgue and Émile Borel in the early 20th century, were deeply skeptical of the axiom of choice from the beginning. They preferred to work only with what they called definable or constructive mathematics, where you could always provide an explicit procedure, an actual method, for making a selection or constructing an object. In mathematics without the axiom of choice, the Banach-Tarski paradox cannot be proved. Non-measurable sets cannot be shown to exist, and the paradox simply doesn't arise. The strength, it eliminates the paradox entirely, and it aligns mathematics more closely with physical intuition. If you can't construct something explicitly, maybe it doesn't really exist. The weakness, removing the axiom of choice from mathematics isn't just about the Banach-Tarski paradox. The axiom is used throughout modern mathematics, in analysis, topology, algebra, and set theory. Removing it would disable enormous amounts of legitimate and useful mathematics. The cure might be worse than the disease. Theory 2. The paradox is perfectly fine. It just reveals limits of measure theory. This is the mainstream mathematical position, and it's more subtle than it first appears. The argument, Banach-Tarski, isn't a contradiction. It's a demonstration that the concept of volume, technically called Lebesgue measure, doesn't apply to all subsets of three-dimensional space. We knew this already. Non-measurable sets were known to exist before Banach-Tarski. The paradox is a dramatic illustration of a fact that was already established. You can't assign a consistent volume to every possible subset of space. The pieces Banach and Tarski cut their ball into don't have volume. So when you put them back together in a new configuration, conservation of volume doesn't apply. There's nothing paradoxical, just a reminder that our intuitive concept of size has limits. The strength, it's technically correct and explains why the paradox doesn't actually violate any physical law. The weakness, it feels like a dodge, saying the pieces don't have volume. So anything goes sidesteps the deeper question of what it means for a mathematical object to exist if it cannot be measured or constructed. Theory 3. The paradox reveals a deep gap between mathematical existence and physical reality. This is the philosophically richest interpretation. The axiom of choice asserts existence without construction. It says certain objects exist, but it provides no way to find them, identify them, or work with them concretely. The pieces in Banach-Tarski exist in this purely abstract sense. They are part of the mathematical universe that the axiom of choice creates. But they are not part of the physical universe, because the physical universe only contains things that can be constructed, measured, or identified through some physical process. The paradox, on this view, is a precise demonstration of the gap between mathematical existence and physical existence. Mathematics is a broader universe than physics. It contains objects, non-measurable sets, choice functions, infinite selections that have no physical counterpart. This is not a flaw. It's a feature. Mathematics is more general than physics precisely because it doesn't restrict itself to what can be physically constructed. The strength, it resolves the paradox completely and frames it as genuinely illuminating rather than troubling. The weakness, it raises deep questions about what mathematical existence actually means. If a mathematical object can never be constructed, identified, or used in any concrete calculation, in what sense does it exist at all? Theory 4. The paradox should change how we teach mathematics. This is a more practical position, taken by some educators and philosophers of mathematics. The argument. The Banach-Tarski paradox reveals that the axiom of choice has consequences that most mathematicians don't fully absorb when they casually accept it. If you knew that you can always make a choice would eventually lead to you can duplicate a ball, you might think more carefully before accepting it as obvious. The paradox should be taught early, not as a curiosity at the end of a course, but as a warning label attached to the axiom of choice from the beginning. Accept this axiom, and here's what follows. The strength, it makes the abstract concrete, and it forces students and mathematicians to take foundational assumptions seriously rather than accepting them as obviously true. The weakness, it's more pedagogical than mathematics. Section 5. Here's what the full investigation reveals. The Banach-Tarski Paradox is not a mistake. It's not a trick. It's not an error waiting to be found. It is a completely valid mathematical theorem that has stood unchallenged for 100 years. But what it means requires being precise about what kind of thing it is. The paradox is a theorem about abstract mathematical objects, specifically about infinite sets of points in mathematical space, selected using the axiom of choice. It operates entirely within the world of pure mathematics. It is not a theorem about physical space. Physical space is made of real stuff: atoms, fields, quantum states. Physical objects cannot be decomposed into non-measurable sets because physical processes don't have access to the axiom of choice. You can't actually pick one point from each of infinitely many equivalence classes in the real world. So the paradox does not threaten conservation of mass or energy. It does not offer a path to free matter or unlimited resources. It does not break physics. What it does do, and this is its real value, is reveal something deep about the axiom of choice and about the relationship between mathematics and physical reality. The hidden truth the Banach-Tarski Paradox exposes is this: mathematical existence is not the same as physical existence. The axioms of mathematics, if chosen carelessly, can generate objects that are mathematically legitimate but physically meaningless. The axiom of choice is not obviously true. It's a choice, appropriately named, about what kind of mathematical universe you want to work in. In a universe with the axiom of choice, you get the full power of modern mathematics, including some uncomfortable results like Banach-Tarski. In a universe without it, you get a more restricted but perhaps more physically intuitive mathematics. Most working mathematicians accept the axiom of choice pragmatically because rejecting it would disable too much useful mathematics, and because the strange consequences, while disturbing, don't cause practical problems. But the Banach-Tarski Paradox is a permanent reminder that accepting an axiom because it seems obvious is not the same as proving that it's true, and that the mathematical universe contains objects that no physical process can ever reach. The paradox is true, and it lives in a place physics can't go. Section 6. Here's what stays with me after working through every layer of this case. Banach and Tarski published their theorem in 1924. They almost certainly knew it would be controversial. The result was so strange that they included careful hedging in the paper, noting that the decomposition used unmeasurable pieces and could not be performed physically. They were right to hedge. The reaction was immediate and intense. Mathematicians argued about it for decades, but nobody found the error, because the error isn't in the proof. The discomfort is in the axiom. The axiom of choice has been studied for over 100 years. Its consequences have been mapped carefully. Mathematicians know exactly what you get when you accept it and what you lose when you reject it. And still, the mathematical community is not unanimous. There are mathematicians who reject the axiom of choice and work in its absence. There are mathematicians who accept it but feel uncomfortable about Banach-Tarski every time they think about it. The case is not fully closed. Here's the detail that I find most genuinely strange. In 2007, a mathematician named Trevor Wilson constructed a result that some call the super Banach-Tarski paradox. He showed that under certain additional set-theoretic assumptions, you can decompose a ball into pieces and reassemble them into a ball of any size, larger or smaller. Not just doubling, any size at all. Same logic, same non-measurable pieces, same physical impossibility. But the result gets more dramatic with every additional assumption you're willing to make. There's a version of mathematics, a legitimate, internally consistent version, in which you can take a ball the size of a marble and reassemble its pieces into a ball the size of the sun. Every piece accounted for. No new material, just rearrangement. In that mathematical universe, conservation of volume doesn't exist. Not as a law, not as a fact, not even as a useful approximation. We don't live in that universe. Or at least, we don't think we do. The thing is, the physical laws we use to rule out Banach-Tarski are observations about physical matter, atoms, molecules, fields. They're confirmed by experiment. They're reliable, but they're not derived from mathematics. They're derived from measurement. And measurement has limits. At scales smaller than anything we can measure, at the Planck length, at the quantum foam level, at whatever lies beneath our current physics, we genuinely do not know what space looks like. We don't know if it's continuous or discrete. We don't know if the concept of a point in space even applies. And if space at its deepest level isn't the continuous, infinitely divisible thing that Banach-Tarski requires, then the paradox might not even be asking a meaningful question about reality. But if it is continuous, if mathematical space and physical space are the same kind of thing, then something very strange is true. The pieces are there, sitting inside every object you can see. Impossible to isolate, impossible to use, but mathematically, undeniably, provably there, waiting in the infinite structure of space itself. And the only thing keeping the ball from becoming two balls is the gap between what mathematics allows and what physics can reach.